Welcome back to Wired to be Rich. Today, I want to talk about power. And I don't just mean the kind that shows up in your bank account or on the spreadsheet. I'm talking about the kind of power that you feel when your environment shifts, when your relationships elevate, and when you step into a version of yourself that some people may not be ready to accept. We throw around words like power couple and power move so casually that they almost lose their weight. Especially these days, they sound like hashtags or captions under photos on Instagram. But when you start living it, when you're actually in those rooms, when you're experiencing firsthand what it feels like to be surrounded by ambition, drive, and alignment, that's when you realize it's not just a phrase. It's a way of being. It's a vibration. It's a level of intentionality that changes not only how you move, but how the people around you respond to you. For me, the idea of power has never been about control over other people. It's been about control over my own trajectory. The ability to put myself in positions where opportunities find me because I had the courage to take the leap. The ability to sit across from the table from people who challenge the way I think, who push me to expand my definition of what's possible. The ability to hold space in relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, where both people are equally invested in growth, not just survival. That's the kind of power I want to explore today, because it's one thing to make money. It's another thing entirely to build a life where money, love, friendship, and alignment all intersect and reinforce each other. And I'll be honest, stepping into that version of myself came with both beauty and cost. It came with moments of realization where I thought, wow, this is everything I dreamed of. But it also came with moments where I had to face the reality that not everyone could handle my evolution. That sometimes stepping into your next level means losing people who can't come with you. So in this episode, I want to share pieces of my own journey. I want to talk about the leaps of faith that shifted my world, the circles that poured into me and taught me new definitions of wealth, the couples who redefined for me what partnership can look like, and yes, the hidden cost of glowing up. Because it's not just about money. It's about how money and ambition shape relationships, how they shape identity, and how they shape the version of yourself that you are brave enough to become.
She's not just a podcast host. She's a movement.
Manda Lee is teaching people how to break cycles and build real wealth, mentally, financially, and spiritually.
People all over the world are waking up to her message.
Wired to be Rich isn't just a podcast, it's a mindset shift.
She makes you believe again in yourself, in your power, and your ability to actually have the life you always known was meant for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manda Lee, entrepreneur, speaker, and founder of Balance and Destiny, and this is Wired to be Rich. Back in 2022, I made a decision that didn't make sense on paper. A former partner and I moved into a luxury apartment in Clear Fork, if you know, you know, and it's one of the most high-end areas in Fort Worth. The rent was $2,000 a month, which at that point in time felt like a reach because realistically, we were in the financial position at the time where $2,000 a month was comfortable. But I knew that we weren't just paying for an apartment, we were investing in access. And that's the part people don't always understand about decisions like this. Sometimes the number on the lease or the price tag on the move isn't about affordability in the moment. It's about where that decision positions you for the future. At the time, I couldn't fully explain why I felt so strongly about making that leap. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about living in a nicer space. This was about stepping into a new environment, one that would force me to stretch into the new or the next version of myself. I didn't realize it right away, but that one leap put me in rooms I had never even imagined being in, y'all. My neighbors weren't just casual acquaintances you nod to in the hallway. They were people who had already built wealth to some capacity, who had retired early or were actively running companies. And when that's who you're bumping into every day, the conversation starts shifting. The energy shifts. You start absorbing new ways of thinking without even realizing it. My next door neighbor was a guy who owned a coffee shop in Vegas and opened one in the shops of Clear Fork. And I never forget because when he moved in, I had just got back from Vegas and I stayed at the hotel where this coffee shop was. I was like, okay, this is a super cute place. I love the aesthetic, and then went on about my trip. Well, Literally, like maybe a couple weeks after I got back from that trip, he moves in next door. And then a couple months after that, he opens up this shop. He was someone to tell me firsthand what opening a business or running one would really look like. I found myself in a routine I never expected, working out every morning with a group that included a retired CPA. For the most part, it was just me and a bunch of other ladies, but he would join in sometimes. He would casually drop gems about how to navigate money differently, how to think long term, how to make your money work for you instead of always chasing it. And these were lessons I might have paid thousands of dollars to learn in a seminar, and here they were, coming to me for free on a silver freaking platter, y'all, just because I was showing up and putting myself in the right place. And it went beyond fitness. I began connecting with people who were serious about investing, about the stock market, about building portfolios that created freedom. These weren't people talking about one day. They were people who were already doing it, who were living proof that money could create options if you moved with strategy. Suddenly, my social life was blending with my education. Dinner conversations weren't just small talk about the weather or weekend plans. They were lessons in how people lived when money was no longer the ceiling. I'd go to steakhouses with these new connections, specifically B&B Butcher in Fort Worth. Please go if you are ever in the area. You won't regret it. And the food and wine just kept flowing. Not because anyone was trying to flex, but because that was their standard of living and because we knew the head chef. It was normal for them, normal to order bottles on bottles without checking the price of the wine, normal to treat fine dining as just another night out with friends. And sitting at those tables taught me something priceless. Sometimes the leap of faith is less about the apartment or city itself and more about the rooms that apartment or city unlocks. Because here's the truth. I didn't just change my address. I changed my access. And access, when you're hungry and ready for it, will teach you lessons that money alone can't buy. Once I was in those rooms, I started noticing something else. Beyond the business, beyond conversations, beyond the networking, there was this dynamic that kept catching my attention. The couples we were with, the way they carried themselves was different than my immediate circle of couple friends at the time. You could tell right away that they weren't together out of comfort or convenience. They were together with purpose. No one depended on anyone. And when you have two people who are together that don't have to be out of convenience, you have examples of real love because at that point, they are together because they just truly want to be. What stood out to me the most was that ambition wasn't one-sided either. Both sets of people that I'm talking about, these couples that I'm referring to, both people in their relationship were building something. The women were in the shadows while their husbands thrived. They might have had more free time depending on which couple we are talking about, but they had their own businesses, their own goals, their own visions, and the men celebrated it and they encouraged it. And that dynamic really shifted the way I understood what people mean when they talk about power couples. For a long time, I thought that term was just about how a couple looked from the outside. But when you actually see it up close, you realize it has nothing to do with the surface and everything to do with alignment. It's about two people who share a vision, who understand that their union is bigger than just companionship. They see each other as partners in every sense, not just emotionally, but strategically. And because of that, when one levels up, the other one doesn't shrink back. They rise together. They adapt, they evolve, they keep pace. That's why they stand out when you're around them. The energy feels different. It feels balanced. And witnessing that firsthand changed something in me those few years ago. It broke down the old belief that ambition and relationships has to be lopsided, that one person builds while the other one waits. I mean, if that works for you, it works for you. But instead of taking on that, I started to see that it's not only possible for both people to thrive at the same time, it's actually what makes the relationship powerful. It's what makes it magnetic. And when you see that kind of partnership in action, it shifts what you believe is possible for your own life. It makes you realize you don't have to choose between love and ambition. You don't have to shrink to make someone else comfortable. You don't have to settle for being the one who holds it down while the other person builds, again, unless you want that and it makes sense for you and your family unit. Shout out to the stay-at-home moms. But a true power couple proves that two ambitious people can build together and fuel each other and create something far greater than what either of them could do alone. It wasn't just about the couples, though. It was about the collective energy of the circle. Every single person I found myself surrounded by was moving with intention. And when I say intention, I don't mean people casually talking about their side hustles or making vague plans about one day. I mean people who were already in motion. They weren't dabbling and they weren't experimenting. They were serious. And that boosted everything about me. Some of them had multiple streams of income, something that was so foreign to me at the time. Real functioning streams that brought in consistent money every month. Others had mastered one lane so deeply that it created the kind of lifestyle most people only dream about. Whether it was real estate, finance, architecture, or entrepreneurship, they had locked in, put in the time, and built something that worked. And being in that energy day after day, it rubbed off on me. Hence the podcast. When you sit with people like that, you can't help but start thinking bigger. Your perspective starts to expand without you even realizing it. The conversations you have start shifting from how do I make ends meet to how do I multiply what I already have. You stop obsessing over comparison, who's further along, who's winning, who's behind, and you start measuring progress in terms of collaboration. Who can I build with? Who can I learn from? Who can I share resources with so we all win? And what made those circles even more powerful was that the exchange was mutual. It wasn't one-sided because I was pouring into them just as much as they were pouring into me. I was offering career advice, perspective shifts, encouragement. I was helping people land new jobs, reminding them of their own value and shifting the way they saw themselves. And in return, they were giving me strategies I had never thought about before, opening doors to connections I would have had on my own and showing me proof, living proof that this level of life was possible. And that's when it clicked for me. Friends are assets. Social circles are equity. The people you spend the most time with are either draining your energy or compounding it. And that difference shows up in your results. When you're sitting at a table where every single person is dreaming, building, and moving, the energy compounds the same way financial investments compound. It grows, it multiplies, and it keeps pushing forward. And just like with money, the longer you stay invested in the right people, the more valuable that equity becomes. Because wealth isn't just about dollars you collect, it's about the people you collect along the way. What people don't talk about enough is that energy glow up comes with a tax. And I don't mean envy or jealousy from other people. I mean the real practical cost you end up paying when you decide to step into a bigger version of yourself. The glow up tax looks like sacrifice. It looks like the nights you stay in and study instead of going out. It looks like the early mornings when you're at the gym or locked into your work while everyone else is still sleeping. It's the discipline of saying no to short-term pleasures because you're playing the long game. It's also financial. Sometimes the glow up tax is paying more upfront for the nicer apartment, the better neighborhood, the healthier food, the mentor, the course, before you feel fully ready. It's uncomfortable and sometimes it feels like you're overreaching, but that discomfort is what forces you to rise. And it's deeply emotional too. The glow up tax can be isolation, not because you're being pushed away, but because your schedule, your priorities, and your focus no longer align with the casual routines you once had. You spend more time alone, more time planning, more time in silence figuring things out. That silence can be heavy at first, but it's in that space where you refine yourself. You pay in discipline. You pay in missed events. You pay in moments of doubt. But what you get in return is clarity, resilience, and proof that you're capable of more than you once thought. And the thing is, you don't always see the glow up text as you're paying it. At first, it just feels like sacrifice. But later, when you're standing in the rooms you once dreamed of, when the opportunities are flowing, when the lifestyle feels normal instead of out of reach, you look back and realize that was the cost. That was the price of admission into this new version of life. As I always say, you have to pay to play. So when I say glow up tax, I don't mean loss in a negative sense. I mean the investments, the sacrifices, the choices that stretch you in ways you don't always recognize until later. And if you're willing to pay it, the return is always worth more than what you gave up. I can guarantee it. So when people talk about power, whether it's power couples, powerful friendships, or the power of success, I see it differently now. For me, true wealth isn't just about numbers sitting in a bank account. It isn't about what you can buy or what you can post online. It's alignment. It's being with someone who pushes you to go further, who doesn't let you shrink when things get hard, who reminds you that your dreams are worth chasing even on the days you're doubting yourself. That's wealth. Because the truth is, you can have money and still feel empty if the people closest to you don't support or challenge your growth. Listen to what I just said. The truth is, you can have all the money in the world and still feel empty if the people closest to you do not support or challenge your growth. It's also about your friendships. It's sitting at tables where every person present is compounding your energy, not draining it. It's the feeling of leaving a dinner or a workout, or even just a phone call with your circle and realizing that you've been sharpened. You've been stretched in that moment and inspired. That's wealth. The kind that multiplies without you even realizing it, simply because of who you choose to sit with. And it's alignment within yourself too. It's having the courage to keep glowing, even when it means you outgrow old versions of your life. Even when it means sacrifice, even when it means moments of isolation, because glow ups aren't just external, they're internal. They're about becoming the version of yourself that feels authentic, not the version that makes other people comfortable. The more I live, the more I see that alignment is the real currency. Because here's the thing, money without alignment feels hollow, but alignment without money can still feel limited. When the two meet, that's when you unlock power. That's when life stops being a chase and starts being a flow. And at the end of the day, the people who are truly meant for you will not only handle your elevation, they'll rise with you. They'll celebrate your growth because it inspires theirs. They'll push you to go further because they know your win is their win too. That is wealth. That is power. And that is how you build a life that isn't just rich in money, but rich in meaning, in love, in fulfillment, and in peace. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Wired to be Rich. If this spoke to you, if it stirred something in you, share it with someone who's on their own journey, because the conversations we have here aren't just for us. They're for the people building alongside us, the people who need the reminder that they're not crazy for dreaming bigger, for wanting more, or refusing to settle. And as you move through your own glow up, remember this. Success was never designed to be a solo mission. It's not just about what you accomplish. It's about who you build with. It's about the partner who pushes you higher. It's about the circle that multiplies your energy instead of draining it. It's about the people you choose to carry forward into your next level. And just as importantly, the people you're willing to leave behind. At the end of the day, wealth without alignment will always feel empty. But when you have alignment, when your relationships, your friendships, and your vision all line up with who you're becoming, that's when life expands in every direction. That's when money stops being the goal and starts being the byproduct of a life that's fully in flow. And one more thing, if you're listening right now and you know you've got insight that's valuable, perspective that aligns with this kind of conversation, and you think it belongs on this platform, please do not be afraid. Shoot me an email. I am opening up my books to collaborate with people who can provide more conversations, more insight, and more perspectives to my audience. Let's talk about collaborating, because this podcast is about building a community of voices that can shift how we think about wealth, power, and alignment. So go build boldly, rise unapologetically, and never forget, the richest life isn't just the one with money in the bank, it's the one that feels abundant in every corner. This is Wired to be Rich, and I will see y'all next week. Bye.